Hi, this is Zach Meir with the Bulletin Board Heroes here at Zach's Traders Cafe for Friday, the 2nd of August. Starting off with the FTSE 100, which delivered on that bull trap through 83.71, the old June peak. While we're below that, then we have the risk of a move down to the floor of that channel from September and the 50-day line around 82.10. But at the moment, we've actually managed to escape touching the 50-day line, which is bullish. And so basically, we've got that range between 82.10 and 8400. The RSI at 53, so back below the previous 55 resistance, but obviously it's early days on Friday, so or early in the day. Therefore, maybe we can wait and see how that pans out. Next up is the DAX, and here we've gapped down through to our support line projection there from April. In fact, I suppose you could say that it's a little bit lower than I drew before, but 17,800 the level there. I have to say, with that gap down and the falling 50-day line, there's now the risk of a test of the 200-day moving average, 17,400, but there is support there, 17,600 from back in April, and ideally we have an end-of-day close back above that line, and if we get that, then we could be back in the range between 17,800 and 18,600, but not a great look for that market, obviously. Rug pull on the Dow, presumably ahead of the non-farm payrolls. You typically see that after a good run in the market. Here we've got the floor of the channel there, 39,400, hoping that we don't need to go down that low. Obviously the previous support there around 39,700 or 800 in fact, but so far on the right side of 40,000, and ideally we hold that area ahead of another attempt at the top of that channel from last year, August-September, up to 42,200 is a best case scenario for the end of this month. Bitcoin is next, and here it was struggling yesterday, and presumably we are trying to still hold on to that 50-day line there, 63,100. While we're above that on an end-of-day close basis, still got the chance of having another test of 71,000, or an attempt at hitting that line. We already failed last week at that level. Otherwise, it's down to the main support line there, for the October support line there at 59,000 as a worst-case scenario. But hopefully we can stay above that 50-day line. Gold is next, and this has been the star of the show in recent days. Current situation is that we are riding high above the old peaks there around 2450, above that looking for 2600 as soon as the end of this month at the top of that rising trend channel from back in December. Moving on to the stocks, and not too many to look at. We've got the first one, ADVFN, which has come out of its wilderness. We obviously had a spike back in May and that came to nothing. Maybe this time, if we can get an end of day close above that old peak at 17.5, we could hit the resistance line projection from basically this time last year. That's heading towards 24 pence, and we're looking for that well before the end of this month, so a better situation there. I looked at Mosman yesterday, and the shares have obliged in terms of falling through in a small way on the end of day close back above a rising 50-day moving average, and also bouncing off the floor of that rising trend channel from back in March. Probably resistance now in the mid-60s, and obviously looking for up to 0.08 by the end of this month. Ultimately, while we remain within that channel, the target is towards 0.1 pence, maybe for the end of next month. But we don't want to see any end-of-day closes back below that 50-day line at 0.47. I covered Metro because it's spiked up so sharply earlier this week. I said above 50 pence, we're looking for up to 85 pence, and luckily yesterday the low was around the 50 pence level. In fact, it was right on the nose there. So while there's no end-of-day close back below 50, then we still have the chance of 85 pence, although that has to be said, looking a bit vulnerable here after 3 days of trying to get through that 60 pence area. Orcadian is next, and a surprise riser given the lay of the land in terms of the North Sea, etc., etc. But the shares had a gap close buy signal back on Wednesday, closing above the old gap there at 8.2 pence and above the 50-day line. Looking for a break of that resistance line there from October, 11 pence to take us up to as high as 21 pence by the end of next month. Maybe a bit quicker than that, but it's just amazing that the shares have delivered, and the bear trap from below the March support there at 8.2 pence. Premier African is next, another unlikely riser or winner or recovery situation. We have just failed at that line there, or fell below that line there from earlier in the year. That's around the 0.07 pence level. So if you are a fan of the shares, you need to see that broken to give us 0.11. But obviously the lay of the land here is of a deep and long-lasting downtrend. Trinity is next, and here we looked at this a little while back. We've gapped through our initial target there at 61 pence, above that on an end-of-day close basis, looking for the upper parallel of that rising trend channel base as high as 75 pence by the end of this month. Don't want to see an end-of-day close back below the floor of the gap there at 58 pence. UKOG, otherwise known as United Oil and Gas, is next, and here we've got this potential rising trend channel base. It's been months in the making, but we're still holding above that 50-day line, which is actually falling at the moment. We're still holding above that, so it's a sort of sideways shuffle above a 50-day line, which tends to be a leading indicator on the upside. 0.29 pence is the best on offer there, if we can remain above that 50-day line at 0.2 pence. Finishing off with UK Oil and Gas, and here you can see that after the pullback from the 200-day moving average, which was hit very nicely earlier in the week, we're having a go at bouncing again, bounced off the old resistance there around 0.05, and looking for that 200-day line again at 0.12 as a retest over the next few days. But the key here, I think, is staying above yesterday's resistance at 0.083 if we can. That's it for me today. More updates over the weekend.